He's the host of The Magic Sandwich, and he'll also have a show later on today over at the Sheraton. And thanks a lot, everybody. Aaron, I'm going to let you take it over.
Thank you, sir. Here, let me see how well this thing works. Most of the mics I get a hold of don't. We still got music? Okay. While I don't like to encourage nationalism, I must admit that I feel I feel patriotic with regard to the ideals that the Founding Fathers had and on which this country was founded. I just wish that my fellow Americans knew more of our own history and of earlier European history to know what those ideals actually were. For example, a couple weeks ago, I'm in a store, I overhear a couple of guys talking about politics, and one of them says, if they don't want to pledge allegiance, they should get out. And the next one says, it's them atheist bastards that cause all the trouble. Well, no, it's not. The atheists aren't the problem here. For example, atheists would not take sequestered school children and force them to recite the daily mantra that there is no God, because atheists aren't the one imposing religious views onto other people's children and thus denying their rights. It's not the atheists who impede medical research either. We're usually not the ones against free or affordable health care, and we're not the ones minimizing or criminalizing women's health care either. We're not the ones proudly perpetuating prejudice. Thank you. We're not the ones proudly perpetuating prejudice, be it racism, sexism, or homophobia, among others. We're not the ones prohibiting or punishing partnerships between consenting adults. And we were not the ones who argued that persecution against gays, for example, should be somehow excusable or not considered a hate crime if it's done in the spirit or inspired by religion. Atheists don't want religion to have exemptions under the law, and why should we? It's not our demographic that has the most divorces, that has the most chemical dependencies, domestic violence, criminal convictions, or even abortions. The only thing we might have more of are diplomas. Now, I'm not saying we're all smart people. There's only one thing all atheists agree on, and there are a few I can think of who really ought to rethink their position on certain issues, whether it's environmental or political or social or scientific. But on the whole, I can think of exceptions to any generalities, individuals, but on the whole, atheism as a group is not behind any of the problems facing America. The real culprit are our polar opposites, and they are acting as a group. We weren't the ones that came up with Homeland Security, conveniently ignoring inconvenient amendments in our own Bill of Rights. We aren't the ones determined to exploit fossil fuels to the exclusion of all better options. And we're not the ones wasting our resources like there's no tomorrow, because we're not the ones who actually believe there's no tomorrow. If you think these are the last days, then you're not going to prepare for the future. And if you elect such a person, then you are hiring them to lead you to your doom. Atheists are typically not the ones diverting billions of dollars into atrocious military offenses while simultaneously trying to defund beneficial social or public welfare programs like the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Education. Do you remember when our governor wanted to cut billions of dollars from the education budget for the state, closing schools and firing thousands of teachers? And then he went to run for president on the promise that he would close all state-funded schools across the nation. If there's any group that can be typified by their frequent objection to and rejection of education, it is religion. From the Dark Ages to the revivals, from the Taliban in Pakistan to American Christian creationists, Religious extremism has historically always been an impediment to progress on many levels, and especially when that involves teaching actual factual information instead of baseless beliefs. What happens to the kids in the street when the government no longer requires or provides free schooling in the essential fundamentals? How bad could it be? Let's look at how bad it's already been. Christian dominionists seem to have this fantasy where they want to take us back to the good old days of the Industrial Revolution, where there will be no middle class, and where poor, illiterate children return to work in unrestricted factories with no vaccinations and no hope for their future. That's not the America I know. I was born in the richest, most technologically advanced, and consequently, the most powerful country in the world. We were the leaders in science. So of course we had a better economy and we had a higher standard of living than anyone else at that time. The rest of the globe sent their best and brightest to enroll in our schools because our students were among the most inventive, innovative, and involved. Some of the greatest American scientists were the immigrants who stayed and enabled the United States to achieve more than anyone else had in the history of mankind. That's when our secular government still cared about better education. Sadly, that is not the country I still live in. America was number one, but saying that now reminds me of Aesop's fable where the hare is still resting on its laurels long after the tortoise has passed. In the 50 years since I was born, America's rating in science has fallen from number 1 to number 37. We have one of the lowest science scores of all countries in the developed world, or the first world. Foreign scholars or foreign scientists don't stay here long after graduation, if they come at all, because what sort of environment do we offer intellectuals now? Our own sciences, our own graduate scholars are leaving as well, moving to Europe or Asia, where they're more welcome, although an American going abroad now means that he will have to try to live down the new stereotype instead of living up to the old one. And it's much worse if you're from Texas, isn't it? I've been to the European continent. I've been to the Australian continent. I can tell you from experience that overseas academics don't remember the Alamo. They're not talking about NASA. They're laughing at our lamentable politics. Learned people over there asked me about the revisionaries on the Texas State Board of Education who tried to undermine education in science, health, and social studies, as if our historic tales were always right about males who were always white. And we're teaching abstinence only instead of responsible awareness has caused us to have the highest rate of repeat teen pregnancies of any state in the country. That is what a profound failure the policies of the religious right have been. Recently, Texas fearless leader publicly announced that he has a biblical responsibility to deny the Founding Fathers' clear demand for a separation of church and state. And he said that his job as governor, well, these are not the words he used, but certainly the meaning, that his job as governor is to promote religious fables as though they were truth. And that, no doubt, is why he has repeatedly appointed the least qualified personnel to stand up to experts. Rick Perry said that American families are under siege, and they are, by biblical literalists who want to enforce a narrow one-man, one-woman legal definition that is not supported by the Bible. He says that defending and preserving life is one of his core Christian values. This coming from a man who has personally presided over hundreds of executions. He has killed more people than any governor in history, in American history. And anyone who has read the scriptures knows that dealing death for practically any crime at all is what the Bible really values. And that includes stoning disobedient children and all those sinners working on weekends. And that's why this country was not founded on biblical principles, because we don't want a country where we sell our children into slavery, where we offer our daughters to rape mobs, force them to marry their rapists, slaughter them in ritual sacrifice, and beat them to death when they won't cower to authority. Neither should we kill our neighbors, pillage their homes, and rape their underage daughters. But the Bible condones all of this. And in some instances it says that those who do these despicable things are favored in the eyes of God. The Bible also condones abortion, and if you don't believe me, read the 5th chapter of the book of Numbers very carefully. 1 month ago, our governor, your governor, incited religious fundamentalists, his constituents, to wage spiritual warfare in a crusade to save America. What's he trying to save America from? And who is the enemy he named? Who did he declare war against? All of you who believe in freedom of speech and freedom of religion and who mean to preserve either one, all of you who know that the only way to have freedom of religious expression is to have freedom from religious oppression, all of you who believe whatever you do for a reason, who believe in reason and who will not believe anything without reason, those who promote tolerance, he called bullies. That's right. The religious right accuse you of oppressing them. Fortunately for all of us, Perry declared this war, this spiritual war, against people who don't believe in magic. So as long as he keeps it at the spiritual level, then his curses and spells will be as pointless and ineffective as his prayer rally. Houston, we have a problem when you try to address real-world situations by effectively wishing on a star. Anybody remember the answer to that prayer for rain? Much of the state caught fire. And then the drought continued for months afterwards. That is what a colossal failure the policies of the religious right have always been. The situations created by climate change aren't like God's. They're not going to vanish if you don't believe in them. And melting polar ice caps is not God's way of clearing another place for you to drill for oil. It wasn't the atheists who caused any of the troubles facing this country. It was another, much larger and much more dangerous group. Those who feel that a commitment to self-delusion by the adoption of unwarranted assumptions and an admittedly unreasonable rejection of reality somehow qualify as the qualities of leadership. There comes a time when actions have consequences, when ill-informed decisions would be disastrous, and when leaders must accept the natural facts of the situation and act accordingly or else. So I urge our public officials to become responsible. And I urge Americans to hold them accountable. Secular citizens should be deeply concerned. Refuse to be misled, rejected. Represent and loudly demand rational government.
Thank you, Aaron Ra. I want to add a little something to what he just said about in Texas when they all prayed for rain and the state caught fire. Some of you may remember that during the Texas Freethought Convention last year was when it actually started raining. So, yeah. Go figure on that one.